Like I said, this is my this is my very first show, so there's gonna be a couple little bit here and there. But anyways, as I was saying, thank you all for joining us today. My name is Maccabee Griffin, and this is Beyond the Pen, where we take the well-known adage, read between the lines, to a whole new level and beyond. Each week, we sit down with a new author and not only discuss one of their published books, but also get an insight into the story behind the story. My first guest couldn't be anyone else other than Black USA News' very own Mr. Donny Glover, as we learn more about his most recent publication of I Am Black Wall Street. For all those who are not familiar with Mr. Glover, he is an award-winning journalist, news talk show host at Radio 1, and a television political analyst for WBAL TV 11, CNN, and Fox TV. He also is the founder and principal of DMGlobal Marketing and Public Relations, creator of www.bemorenews.com and blackatlnews.com, just to name a few things. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Donny Glover. Donny, it is so nice to see you here. Thank you again for being my first, very first guest on here.
You're guinea pig.
You're right. I am the guinea pig.
I'm the guinea pig.
Well, both of us can be a guinea pig. How's that? So I want to really, like I said, I want to thank you obviously for this opportunity, for having this. And it has been fun to get to know you, get to know everything about your shows and everything. And I have to say this subject is one of the most forgotten, but yet most covered incidents, not only in Black history, but also American history as well. We're talking about the great and unfortunate Greenwood District Massacre that happened back in 1921. There have been many authors who have actually written about this subject. People like Hannibal L. Johnson, Tim Madigan, Mary E. Johnson Parrish, and many, many more. But the fact is, when I was preparing for this episode, I found that your book, I Am Black Wall Street, took a whole different look at it. Instead of talking about the situation, you actually went and talked about everything before it even became Black Wall Street. Can you iterate some of the reasons why you took a different route with this subject instead of covering the riots and the repercussions that followed it?
I'm a history buff. And so Hannibal and those other writers have covered what happened in Tulsa very well. I was curious as to how did they get there?
Mm-hmm.
And the more I dug, the more I found. For instance, did you know that Florida was not an original colony?
Yes, I did actually know that because it was actually, we bought it from the Spanish.
In 1831, after Andrew Jackson went down there and invaded. And he
Mm-hmm.
called himself putting blacks in slavery and putting Indians off the land and sending them west on the Trail of Tears on the other side of the Mississippi River.
Yeah, it was definitely been the story itself has been very interesting, and just understanding everything that had to deal with the movement of everybody to, Oklahoma in general. But just the story of, for you covered, 500 years of history, within just one book.
Let me tell you why. So as I dug, I came to realize there are so many things that we don't know about American history.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that there were black towns?
I knew of a few of them that were closer into the when the slaves were actually moving from the south into the north areas. There were a few of them.
So let me clarify one myth.
Yes, sir.
One myth is that all black people were slaves.
No.
Another myth is that white people were not slaves in this country.
That is also false. True. That I understand that.
There were white slaves. There were white indentured servants.
Yep. The Irish were actually one of the biggest ethnicities that actually were considered indentured slaves.
But remember, slavery has been around for a long time in various forms. I think what's different here in America is the vitriol, the hatred that has resulted, even to this day, where there are whites who hate black people because they're black. And it's like, dude, this is 2021. What sick psychosis are you perpetuating? Is it what we saw on January 6th? Is that what this is about? That there's some whites who think that America belongs to them?
Mm-hmm.
And it just speaks to how this country has this whole, originally had this notion of manifest destiny, that America, the Native Americans, were here to be conquered and bow down to the wishes, to the whims, to the dreams of some white people from across the water, when there were people already here. So a lot of our understanding of American history is warped. So let's go back to Florida.
Okay, Florida.
There were people of color already here in the States when the European arrived.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The Caribbean and South America. Everywhere there was slavery, there was some type of kickback. So here's another myth. A myth is that black people were passive, were docile in terms of slavery. Oh, yes, I want to be a slave. Nobody in their right mind wants to be a damn slave.
No.
And when you consider the lynchings, the whippings, the rapes, the murders of men, women, and children, you have to consider the diabolical nature that it takes to do this to other human beings simply because you think you deserve to live here. How ludicrous is that? So this country was built on a lot of confusion.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Black people have been fighting for their freedom and forming freedom colonies from Haiti to Brazil to Venezuela to Jamaica. Wherever there was slavery, there was somebody fighting back. Wherever there was slavery. And so, considering that Florida was home to a lot of free blacks and a lot of Indians who were chased from from the eastern towns, they were all chased to Florida. Seminole is not even a name. It comes from Cimarrones. It means wild ones. And the Seminole is a group of various Indians from different tribes that landed in Florida. And so here's another myth. There were 3 Seminole Wars. 3 Seminole Wars. The second of which was actually the largest slave insurrection in the history of the United States. You had all of these blacks, you had all of these Indians down in Florida, people like Andrew Jackson going all the way down, fighting them to the very end. And there's some who are still there today, deep in the Florida Everglades. That's how far south. We usually think of people escaping slavery as going north, but in my book, I talk about how many of the slaves went south into the Florida Everglades, or if they were in, and this is unknown, a lot of people are talking about 1619 as if that's when the first blacks came as slaves to this country. I would take it back to 1525.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Original black slaves. The first came 100 years earlier, and they escaped and went over into the Gullah Islands off the coast of South Carolina. So there's so much we don't even know about the Gullahs and the Geechees off of the coast of South Carolina and Georgia.
Yeah, I've never heard of them before, and you're right. There is a lot of history that we really don't know because it's been either removed completely, or it has been just twisted in some way, shape, or form to fit a certain goal or a certain political view or whatever the case may be. And this is one of the reasons why I'm really happy that you're my very first guest on here. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about Mr. Donny Glover's book, I Am Black Wall Street. And it is something that I really am looking forward to getting a copy of. The digital copy that I do have right now, I've been able to glimpse at it here and there just to get a broad view of how far you've actually went with this. But I can't wait to get my physical book. And if I can actually do this, get you to actually sign it for me. It would be really good. But it is that idea that, that's, 20 generations of pioneers that built this, not only this district, but various other places around the world through that time from scratch. Probably because a lot of times, I'm going to say multiple times, due to possible attacks from local, Klansmen, and other ignorant people through the years, plus dealing with, the segregation laws and everything that went with it. I want you to talk a little more about some of the places that people were traveling from besides Florida. And possibly some of the some little bit more information on some of the things that would interest our viewers and listeners, and of course future readers of your book, such as myself, in regards to the actual district itself when it started to build up during the 1910s and 1920s.
So Oklahoma was home to not just Tulsa's Greenwood district.
Mm-hmm.
There were anywhere from 70 to 80 black towns in Oklahoma, in addition to that. So mind you, these were blacks that went out to Oklahoma after the Civil War. Many whites were given land. Oklahoma was special because they were given land to Indians.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings up the Dawes Roll. Have you ever heard of the Dawes Roll? Dawes.
No.
The Dawes Roll, when all of those people, Indians and blacks,
mm-hmm.
and mind you, the blacks that went out there, not all of them were slaves. Some of them were soldiers who fought in the Second Seminole War under Chief John Horse. But when they got to Oklahoma, there was this Dawes Commission, and they determined that you are Indian and you are not, just by looking at people. So there's a group of white people saying you are Indian and you are not. And I told you already that there were black people, black natives already here.
Mm-hmm.
So you now have someone who doesn't even know their own damn history telling you what your history is.
Yeah.
70 to 80 black towns in Oklahoma. But watch this. Texas had over 500 black towns.
Wow, I did not even know that.
There were two heroes in this book. One was a black Seminole Indian named Chief John Horse.
I've heard of him.
Chief John Horse went out to Oklahoma in 1843 after fighting the likes of Andrew Jackson down in Florida. They fought to a truce.
Man.
He agreed to lead his 200 soldiers and families to Oklahoma on a Trail of Tears. Proof positive that not all blacks on the Trail of Tears were slaves.
It's true. That is
They were
very true.
soldiers, and they were promised their freedom if they just left Florida and went to Oklahoma, in which they did. But they get out to Oklahoma, and the U.S. government did what the U.S. government does, and they reneged. Captain Chief John Horse then led his 200 black families and soldiers to Mexico, to a town called Nacimiento, where they still celebrate Juneteenth today. And there, his soldiers served as the border patrol for Mexico.
Really? I didn't know
after the
that.
Civil War, which they came back, and his soldiers were among the first black Seminole scouts in the U.S. cavalry. The other hero in the book is a white man. It is important to know that Black Wall Street took a little bit of everything. Wasn't just black people working, saving, blah, blah, blah. I done already told you about the relationship with the Indians.
Yeah.
It took a contribution from this white man named Captain John Brown. I don't know if you ever heard of John Brown, but he led on Harper's Ferry, Virginia. And this is a white man who gave his life to fight slavery, to abolish slavery. On Hulu, I think Ethan Hawke played Captain John Brown. Some people thought it wasn't the best rendition. He tried to play John Brown like he was crazy. But anytime you go against the norm, mind you, the norm of the day was that slavery is okay. It is okay to own somebody. And that's what kills me about January 6th. So you are holding on to the fact that you think you have the right to own other people. Just do your own damn work. Stop being lazy. Go do some damn work. Do your own work. Plant your own crops. And mind you, this was after the Indians took in these European settlers, taught them how to raise corn, how to eat, how to survive in North America, only to be rewarded with death and murder and rape and smallpox. So it's a lot of history that had to be unpacked. I wanted to do something different, this being the 100th year of the commemoration of the destruction of Black Wall Street. What other community has that? I want you to know that Black Wall Street, it's often overlooked, was air bombed. It was bombed.
Really?
Yeah. There's a song by the Gap Band called "You Dropped the Bomb on Me, Baby."
Right.
That, by the way, stands for Greenwood, Arch, and Pine, the major intersection in Greenwood District of Tulsa. The
Really?
Gap Band is named after a major tri-section, if you will, Greenwood, Arch, and Pine. Bombs were literally dropped on the Greenwood District of Tulsa. They've never been repaired. They've never been made whole. Those people were robbed. I mean, there was some rebuilding, but it's a reminder too that, because, you know, there's always this notion, even when you watch local news, that all murders are done by black people and everything good in the world was done by white people. We see it every day here in Baltimore in the news. Only thing black people do is commit crimes, let the news tell it. But the truth is, black people were very productive, constructive. They multiplied their gifts and talents if they were just left the hell alone.
Yeah, that's true.
And let me say this for the record. Black Wall Street was burned down by a mob of angry, jealous whites. Period.
It's true. It is very true.
Fresh out of slavery and built up a community that makes the white community look what it is.
And you know, it is true on that, because history shows that they were so jealous of how
you gonna be jealous of somebody that worked their way from the bottom up?
You know, jealousy
mentality does that.
Jealousy is one of those things that that's why it's called
trait.
I'm not even going to touch that one.
That's a rap. That's a rap lyric.
I was about to say, because I'm not touching that with a 35.5-foot pole. But no, jealousy is such a horrible thing because they use the excuse that a group of black men had raped a white woman.
One man, Mr. Rowland. They
Thank
said
you. Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Rowland. Yes,
he raped a black or a white woman. I later learned, and it has been said that very couple later got married.
Yeah, I heard about that too because
His name was Dick Rowland.
It was one of those. It was one of those stories that it was like it was almost.
After
it was
all
really,
these people get killed, y'all two get married.
It's a horrible thing that happened, but something positive at least came out of that. And the other thing that I learned is that, out of the thousands, like hundreds of businesses that were in the area that were very prosperous, even when the bombings hit and everybody, there was a lot of people that got hurt. I think it was like 3,000, I think was the number.
There's no accurate number, but at least 300 got killed, 10,000 were displaced, 600 businesses were destroyed, all within a 36 square block area.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is that, and this is why I was really happy to tell this story, that even though there was such a heartache in this, that these people they knew that they could rebuild, and they did. After a year, they had built up 80 different businesses, and by 1942, they got up to like 242 different differently. I can't even speak right now. 242 very prospective businesses that prospered and continue to prosper.
Let me add in this one important fact. Did you know that Tulsa was the oil capital of the world at the turn of the 20th century? Over 400 oil companies had headquarters there in Tulsa. So money was fluid for a while. But that industry, at some point peaked, and industry moved around. But in the early days, Tulsa was very popular for oil.
Yeah,
which
especially
made
during the
it
war.
good for everyone. But still, it's hard for me to understand. You're white, you got this land, you got oil, you're making money. Why are you looking at what those black people are doing? What is, why are you so distracted?
Jealousy there's no logic to jealousy. There really isn't. And that's one of the things, that's a really good reason why I was so moved by the story itself. Hannibal L. Johnson, who wrote many books on the subject, made a statement that I thought would be really interesting to get your feedback on. He stated that the Greenwood District is poised for another renaissance of success like it did back in 1942, even though it has declined since then through the decades. Would you agree with this statement? And why do you think so?
I don't know enough about Tulsa to give you an intelligent response.
Okay.
What I will say, we have to understand that Black Wall Street is bigger, and that's what I've attempted to demonstrate in this book. It's bigger than just what happened there in Tulsa. Did you know there were two other Black Wall Streets, official Black Wall Streets?
Yes, there was one in New York City.
No, technically, officially, there was one in Richmond, Virginia. And one in Durham, North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
But let me share this with you. Unbeknownst to a lot of us, slavery ended in the North in 1804. By 1804, there were no, slavery, buying and selling slaves was ended in the North. So where Tulsa's Greenwood section got off the ground, 1900s, 1890, 1889. By 1825, Seneca Village was established in Manhattan, in between 82nd and 89th Street. By 1838, over in Brooklyn, they had a Black community called Weeksville. And this is 100 years, almost 100 years before Tulsa. So Burlington Island, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever there were Black people, there was some type of movement for freedom, some type of Black business district. So to go back to your question, I want to say this as it relates to Tulsa's or rebuilding Tulsa's Black Wall Street. This is 2021.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole new landscape. Our thinking has evolved.
Yes.
So for me, Black Wall Street is a state of mind. It's a mentality that I'm going to support your business wherever you are, especially in the day of digital technology. So
yes,
I'm not as focused on physical locations. Sure, here in Baltimore, for instance, we have a pocket, an area that is super saturated with Black businesses, and that is a physical Black Wall Street. But Black Wall Street is also virtual in my mind. When we interview people on this network from Ethiopia, Tanzania, Ghana, or Jamaica, the diaspora is worldwide. So my thinking is more of the state of mind that wherever we are, especially with Cash App, Zelle, and all of these other forms of payment, it's like Amazon, we can support Black businesses wherever they are in the world. And for me, it's more about that mentality that if this person is hiring other people, they're being productive, I have an innate obligation, responsibility to do my best to support them. And maybe it's not always money, but let me tell you what it certainly is not. It's certainly not going on Facebook and saying, something that I could have easily just picked up the phone and said, sir, I didn't like this, I didn't like that. But when we go so far and I go, all on social media to blast your business, at some point I should ask myself, well, damn, did I do anything to help his business? That's what my mother taught me. If you can't say something good, don't say nothing.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm glad that you started to talk about the whole idea of the whole idea that Black Wall Street is a mindset. Yeah. It's an absolute mindset now, because as someone who knows the power of words and how they change the way we think and what we feel about whatever we're hearing or seeing, or both, I want to ask you this, just so people can get an idea of, the author behind the book now. What were you feeling as you were writing this book? What was like through the whole process?
There's so much we don't know. They would have us think America, the people behind the Manifest Destiny, they would have the losers, because the winners write history. They would have the losers think that, your Black history started in India with slavery. No, it didn't. No, Black people have always been in business. I mean, it takes you back to Africa for one. There's so much. If you only listen to white writers, you'll get the impression that the pharaohs were white.
Well, yeah. There's a viewpoint on that's a big
Hollywood.
thing.
I just saw a commercial.
Yeah,
with a white pharaoh. It's like, come on, dog, stop playing.
Well, again, yeah, it's that mentality of like the, the golden years of Hollywood and stuff. There was a lot of times where they just didn't want to get someone who was Black to.
I talk about it in this book. The very first film, D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation. So it's not just a film, an action movie. Yeah, it's the angle, the slant, the framing. If the only images of Black people you see were real big lips, or the eyes bulged wide open, or only telling jokes, or Black men dressed in drag, that's why Dave Chappelle is so revered in the Black community, because he turned down $50 million when these people insisted that he put on a dress. And if you understand the Black mentality and what Black people have gone through, all the way down to sagging pants on a plantation, which was a sign that a man had been raped by a white homosexual slave master. When you understand that history, you're not tolerant of a lot of dumb stuff or you know, Medeas and you serious-minded folks. Entertainment, okay, but don't bring that to me on a serious level and expect me to respect it, because I'm thinking more along the lines of the freedom fighters from Zumbi in Brazil to Harriet Tubman on the Eastern Shore of Maryland and Frederick Douglass also on the Eastern Shore. People who stood up for Black people to have the right to dignity, just basic human dignity. I was talking with a lady yesterday about W.E.B. Du Bois and how he wrote about the problem of the 20th century being the color line. He wrote that in the late 1800s, early 1900s, but the same is so in the 21st century.
Yeah. And it's true that, you know, like I said, when you look at Hollywood's depiction of what a Black man is, you know, there are there's so many negative viewpoints that we could touch on. But for me, the positive one is when Sidney Poitier was playing in the movie, what was it? The Guest Who Came to Dinner. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. And when he was talking to his dad, because if anyone doesn't know that movie, it's about a Black man who was getting engaged with a white woman. And this is back during the late 50s, early 60s. And it is a wonderful movie. It is, even today, I would say that would still touch on a lot of things, a lot of subjects that are still people are kind of leery with. But the scene that I'm really talking about is when they're trying to they're trying to talk the fathers into allowing this to happen. And Sidney Poitier's father, I wish I could remember the actor's name because he was so good at it. He made the statement, "Dad, you look at me as a Black man. I see myself as just a man." And that is something that a lot of people still kind of don't see anymore, that we are way beyond our colors. We are way beyond what society has depicted as what a Black man is and what a white man is, what an Asian or whatever the color of your skin is. And, you know, when you look at that and you see how ridiculous a lot of the things are that we see, it allows us to really digest and understand what's going on and then change it. And that's one of the things that I'm really, really glad that, because there is history that people don't know. And that's why I enjoy telling stories. That's why I became a voice actor, is because of the fact that I love telling people's stories, because they're needing to be told, you know, and knowing how important Black Wall Street should be in our current conversations, and the inspiring stories of faith in the human spirit by the pioneers that overcame these segregation laws, the death, the destruction of so many lives, and the resurrection of an entire group of people. I want to ask you, what are you wanting your readers to really take away from this? And what are you hoping that happens in their lives because they read your book?
We like to inspire entrepreneurship as a viable option.
Mm-hmm.
We also want people to think for themselves. Go and do your own research. Don't believe anything anybody tells you. Don't even believe me. Read the book, but don't believe it. Go and double check. Go read for yourself. I also want people to look up their own family trees.
Yes.
A lot of people have history in their lineage they know nothing about because nobody told them, nobody recorded it.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope people come away with a sense of self-empowerment.
Yeah.
Of a better sense of what the individual can accomplish. So often, it's easy to get into the mindset of accepting the status quo from ourselves, from our children, from others around us. I want us to lift up our sights, aim higher.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And when somebody tells you you can't do something, prove them wrong. I get a thrill out of it. When I first wrote this book, I was told by one of my advisors that Black Indians did not fit into this story.
Why? Because people don't think that Indians were Black?
Yeah, and that there wouldn't be a nexus. But in retrospect, when I talked to the people out there in Tulsa, including attorney Demario Solomon Simmons told me that you cannot write the story of Black Wall Street and not mention Black Indians. Not the thorough story. And so again, I want people to look beyond the surface on a situation, as I have to do as a journalist, or as I strive to do as a journalist. You got to go beyond what's on the surface if you really want to understand. It's like a pretty girl. Yeah, she's pretty aesthetically pretty on the outside, but you still got to unpack that mind. You got to unpack that spirit. You got to unpack that personality to find out what's underneath, what's the substance.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? That's why I really was really happy that you allowed me to create this show, because like I said before, stories are so important. Well, I appreciate it anyways. But it like I said, it is very important that we look beyond just what's put in front of us. Like you said, everybody should not only just read a book, they should look at it as a reference point, but go do your research. Go to the point where you can actually have so much knowledge about a specific subject that it creates a passion within your soul, that you want to learn more, that you want to share more, because that's where wisdom comes from. And that's why I tell people very often, it's like when you go down, there's two paths. We always say that you have the hard road and you have the easy road. The easy road is a highway that everybody goes down because it's easy. But here's the problem. There's no wisdom left on the easy road because of the fact that those who pioneered it already built the road. They left stuff, and then everybody behind them has already picked up all that wisdom. But a lot of people, when they get that wisdom, they don't share it. They just keep it to themselves, and it just dies with them. Now, those that go on the hard road, you're going to hit obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. But here's the great thing about obstacles. They give you wisdom. There's always going to be a treasure chest of wisdom for you to not only have for yourself, but also enough for you to get through the next obstacle and hand that off to someone else that's coming through your path. And those are things that we really need to do, and especially with our stories. And now that we've talked about your book, and I love your book, I want them to know just a little bit more about you. So each week I will be asking our guest authors 5 questions that will give our audience a glimpse of the author behind the book and inspire the next generation of writers who are either watching this live on Facebook and YouTube or listening to it or watching it a little bit later on when I start creating the Beyond the Pen podcast. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions just about you so that you can give a little bit of wisdom for the next generation. You ready?
I'll do my best.
All right. Question 1. What person, event, or book inspired your literary journey that could also help inspire others to do the same? I love doing this to people.
My 5th and 6th grade teacher, Mr. Williams.
A teacher. That's awesome.
He had me doing the morning broadcast. I made it on the local television in his class, made it in the newspaper, I think, around that time. And that was 11 years old, elementary school, 5th and 6th grade. By 15, I was on WEAA, local radio, Morgan State University. That would be Charlie Duggar. He took me on the radio when I was 15, and I've been doing radio ever since.
See, it always begins with a teacher. And that's why I believe so many teachers need to get paid so much more. I mean, even
we pay athletes an exorbitant amount of money.
Exactly.
And then you look at the give back. In Baltimore, we don't have any new recreation centers. And so personally, I could care less about another multi-million-dollar athlete, particularly if he doesn't know about Curt Flood. You know about Curt Flood?
I don't, but I'm waiting for you to tell me about him because I really want to.
Curt Flood sued American baseball.
Oh,
and won.
That's interesting.
It led to free agency. And the NFL followed the following year.
Wow.
He didn't like being traded without having say so.
Oh, I can understand that.
He protested it, and he was the top player in Major League Baseball, and he quit. He protested. He became an alcoholic, a derelict over in Europe.
Man,
but he cleaned himself up, came back, and before it was all said and done, the lawsuit went through. He sued American baseball and won.
That's crazy.
Flood. So I don't care about another mega athlete. Mm-hmm. I see people bragging, oh, my son, my daughter, this. What is your child's give back? What does your child understand about their history?
Yeah.
In Baltimore, we have all of these athletes that have come through Baltimore, but not one has built a recreation center. We have recreation centers that haven't been rebuilt in my lifetime.
Man, well, hopefully we can find that next generation of people that want to give back. So
we have to teach them to give back.
Exactly. We have to inspire and teach them. And that's the great thing about this.
See, we're just teaching them to make the money. And
yeah.
That's where we all lost.
Yeah, that's true. Because it's something that we've been taught ourselves. It's all about the money, but it's not. It's all about the work that you leave behind and how many people's lives you've changed by either inspiring them or just by helping them, just by saying hello to them when they were down, or just to give an ear to them, just to listen to their story, just to make them feel better and get it out.
You got politicians and celebrities, and they, you can't give them. Let me tell you, no celebrities run this house.
Well, hopefully we can change that too. Okay, sure. Let's get to question 2 real quick because I really want to get these out. I want to know a lot more about this. So, what are some common traps for aspiring writers that you have either had in your personal journey or that you've seen happen to others?
Procrastination.
That's true. Very true. Now, talking about procrastination, do you ever get reader's block?
Oh, yeah.
And
I've been in reader's block for a long time. But it is imperative, if you're going to grow, you have to read other people's stuff.
Yes.
Now, as an artist, Erykah Badu may have said it best. I'm sensitive about my SHIT. And it's only but so much I'm going to peep of someone else's work, because then my mind gets to clicking on what I want to do.
Right, exactly. So, okay, here's since you said procrastination, this is going to lead into number 3. This is the reason why I set it up. What is your kryptonite? What is your mind trap?
I don't do well when I put too much on my plate at one time.
Too many ideas? Too many different projects?
Too many projects.
Okay. All right.
As I get older, I've learned to keep it simple and communicate, hey, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do a whole damn hour radio show today.
Well, we're doing the best we can to get you off of that. So we can do it.
Well, I gave you 47 minutes, but this morning I wasn't feeling like 47 minutes. This morning I wasn't feeling like four minutes.
I understand completely, but you know what? That's what happens when passion comes through.
Yeah,
It gives you that energy. It
No,
gives
that's
you
what
that.
Maccabee give you, that threat. Like, you better
Well,
be on
that
my
too. Yeah,
show. You ain't
I
gonna
did
I know
not.
you ain't stand me up.
Oh, I did not. I was
Yeah,
just
you did.
double
I
checking.
heard.
Oh, okay. All right.
You
Sorry, making people
communicated it.
think. Okay. All right. All right. Question 4. If you could tell, you're so horrible. If you could tell your younger writing self anything, what would it be?
I would have to say what Nikki Giovanni told me when I was 18. Keep writing.
There you go. That's the greatest thing you could ever say. All right. Last one. And this is always something I really love to ask people because there's so many different answers to this. What quote inspires you to continue writing, even just inspire you to do the best you can?
My dad, he said, with a closed hand, nothing gets in, nothing gets out. With an open hand, there are endless possibilities. The moral to the story is to help somebody. So I know when I meet a Maccabee and I see a cat with so much on the ball, you're damn right. You better go out there and recruit them for your network.
Well, I appreciate that.
I mean, look at this fancy screen. It's all fancy. You're going to show me how to do this? Yeah.
I will be happy to do it. I will be happy to. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank my guest, Mr. Donny Glover, for being my very first guest and for sharing with us the story behind the book. I Am Black Wall Street. Donny, this, again, please tell us where we can find this. Tell everyone where they can find you online and anything that you would like to close the show with.
I want you to tell them who you are. I'm on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. I'm going to get off here and I want you to tell them who you are. Who are you? Who are you? You just popped up on here. You got all of this razzle dazzle matazz.
It's the theater guy. I mean, what can I say?
And give them a voice. You got to give them a voice.
Well,
come on, Maccabee Griffin.
Each time I will, but this show is about you guys. This is a show about the authors and what they share with the world. So I will let you go. Thank you again, Mr. Donny Glover, for being
across
on
the
Beyond
social media, Facebook, Twitter, BeMoreNews.com, BlackUSA.news. Of course, this is a part of the Black USA Network. We welcome you, and we thank your family for sharing you with us. I'm going to step off, but do tell them who you are, and big ups. Look, you got Taz on here. You got Rico. Rico and Michael Randolph, they're going to be 2 of your biggest supporters. Taz, of course, is your teammate. But we're glad to have you, and may the Creator continue to bless everything you do, including Beyond the Pen. I love the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you again so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. I want to thank everyone who is watching now, and for those who will be watching or listening later. Join us next week when we talk with another inspiring author to share their book and their inspiring story behind it. And, I might as well end up with reading, just giving you a little glimpse of, some of the voices that I do. It is very fun to do this. I was so happy to do this. Thank you so much. Now, George, you got to be very careful how you tell people this. Well, sometimes it's just fun to just say, thank you. Thank you so much, so much. And until next time, remember to keep writing, keep inspiring, and keep sharing as you can go beyond the pen. Have a good one, everybody. Thank you very much.